All right, welcome back to another episode of 2 Point Sports. Today we've got Brandon and a special guest, Emily Taylor. I think she's been
Howdy.
on the podcast once before, but welcome back, Em.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun, kind of. We're gonna talk about this just, I guess, very interesting game for Oklahoma versus Tennessee. Before we get into everything, because I'm sure everyone has an opinion on it, either if it's the same or different. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, all that fun jazz. Follow us on all the links down below in the description. All right. So Oklahoma is now 3-1, dropping a game to Tennessee. A lot happened. I think the biggest story there is Jackson Arnold getting benched towards the end of the second quarter for true freshman Mike Hawkins Jr. Uh, Offense was just not clicking all game. It got a little better with Mike Hawkins, but definitely was not a good look for Jackson Arnold, and we'll see what happens with him in the long run. Brandon, Emily, I'll kick it over to you guys. What did you think of that football game? All three of us were in attendance, so we had a perspective of what it looked like on the field versus on TV.
I feel terrible for Jackson Arnold because he cost us the game. And at the end of the day, there's those three turnovers are what lose you the game. And then people take to social media, and I'm sure he's seeing this stuff too. And I'm sure he just had an awful night. But I mean, the reality of the situation is he really did lose that game for Oklahoma. It's a game you lose by 10 points. We'll get into it later, but you cannot get a turnover and have the ball gifted to you at the 5-yard line and walk away with nothing, and then later in the game get the ball at the 33-yard line and walk away with nothing. He turned the ball over to the very next play both times. Both fumbles. One, he was trying to run it in and fumbled the ball, and one, he just threw the ball backwards. You can't do that. That's at least 6 points you're leaving on the field. That's real bad. And then his interception earlier in the game was like the one time that he had a lot of good protection there. He had all day, and for some reason, I don't know what he saw, but he threw the ball right to a Tennessee defender. Those turnovers really cost you the game. I think the defense is the best defense in the country, so I would really like to see us generate some offense moving forward this season. I think Hawk has to be the guy going forward. And again, I feel terrible for Arnold, but Hawk is the guy that kind of gave him life. Because we had no business being in that game with how bad the offense played, the first 3.5 quarters, really. But lo and behold, with a minute and 15 seconds left, you score a touchdown. It's a 10-point game. If you get the 2-point conversion, you still have 3 timeouts, and somehow, some way, you are still very much in that game. And in a game that you have to credit the defense for keeping them even kind of competitive, and then you got to credit Hawk for really making it interesting, really kind of making them sweat a little more than I thought they were going to have to through the first 3.5 quarters of that game. But I left that game kind of feeling optimistic. I tweeted about how I think that's a really good Tennessee team you played. The defense, again, I think is the best in the country. I think you finally found a spark on offense, especially guys like Jaquez Petaway, who I've been super excited about for a long time for you guys that watch the show. And 23 snaps, 3 catches, 79 yards, busted a big one for like 47. We're doing this again with no Nick Anderson. He got hurt right away. Deion Burks was out for most of the second half. Taylor Tatum, the only good running back going, got hurt. So he was really doing this really shorthanded. I think it was really cool to see Jaquez step up. Really cool to see Hawk step up and get some scoring drives going. Again, I think we found something on offense. Defense is going to be good. I'm excited about what we look like going forward.
Yeah, I think you walk away with a lot of hope. I think that's what all of us were saying leaving the game last night. Like, our defense is elite, one of the best in the country, if not the best in the country. And our offense showed a glimmer of hope at the end of that game. Michael Hawkins Jr. is the guy going forward. It'll be very upsetting to not see him be the starter going forward in Auburn next week. But, I mean, if you can fix even a little bit of that offense, and there's a good reason to have hope. So I think next week is a good game to kind of practice that offense and see if anything can be put together, which, 2 touchdowns in the fourth quarter like that, or third or fourth quarter. It's more than we put together in the first half. So a touchdown, if we can put points on the board and with that offense on the other side of the field, like, there's something to be hopeful about there.
Yeah, that's 2 very optimistic views, and I don't completely disagree. the play calling still seems questionable with Seth Luttrell. When Jackson Arnold was in, his execution was terrible. That I think the three of us agree with, and what you guys just said. But when it did come to the play calling, it wasn't jet sweeps, but it was just lateral movement on the field. Nothing was really pushed down the field. Like you said, Brandon, the one time he had good protection was the one time they did try to push something down the field with Jackson and he threw a pick. So that's on him. Can't really blame Luttrell for that, but why not? Like it seemed like once Mike Hawkins came in, and it might be again execution, but he actually got the ball further than 5 yards past the line of scrimmage, while Jackson Arnold was just dumping it off and then hoping that Deion Burks or a receiver could make a play with it. So I think it's a mix of play calling and Jackson Arnold just not living up to the expectations. If he gets back on the field, I think he just hopefully the fans can get behind him if that does happen to be the case come the Auburn game. But I agree with you guys on the Mike Hawkins Jr. part. It does. I feel like he's earned the right to play as a starting quarterback for Oklahoma just with the second half alone. The injuries are still a huge problem. Like Brandon, you mentioned, Nick Anderson, I think, played like a handful of snaps and was gone for the rest of the game. We lost Kendall Dolby to an ankle dislocation, I believe is what the injury was reported. So he's probably out for the season at this point. Maybe less. I haven't seen anything on the timeline, but I'm sure we'll learn more about it later on in the week. Brandon Hagman, really the only one that came back, and he looked good. Offensive line still not very good. It's like hit or miss there. I think at this point, if this team as a whole goes less than 8 wins, then more than likely it's because the offense just could never figure anything out. And every coach on that side of the ball is going to be worried about their jobs come to the end of the season. Even Luttrell and Finley, just because they're year one coordinators doesn't really it's not an excuse because they had all the pieces. They were part of the staff that helped recruit all these pieces that are on their team right now. So they should have had the familiarity aspect is there. Luttrell's supposed to be an experienced play caller, and it looks like this is his first time calling plays sometimes, and the execution just isn't there. And that's on the players, but as coaches, you're also supposed to prepare them throughout the week so that execution is 85% happening. And there's going to be miscommunications. There's going to be mistakes, but you can't go a whole half of football and only. I think when Jackson Arnold was substituted out, we had like 84 or 85 yards of total offense.
Yeah, 84, 85 yards of total offense late into the third. And no, I agree. I mean, you look at the team, it's banged up as hell. Yeah, you were playing with a lot of hurt receivers. You're playing with Taylor Tatum's out of that game, so you're playing with you're already down your new starting running back essentially because he's kind of overtook Gavin Sawchuk. Javante Barnes did what he could. I think he busted one nice run, but the offense cost the game, and namely those 2 turnovers. You can't get the ball in plus territory one time plus territory at the 5-yard line and walk away with nothing. You lose the game by 10 points, and you choke away 2 golden opportunities against a really good team at home to put them on their heels and score some points. And we weren't able to do that for whatever reason. I think Jackson Arnold is so beat in his head right now. Just with the lack of success that they've had right now, I think he's kind of lost all sort of confidence that he may have had prior to the season. Because if you look at the box score, you hold Tennessee to 2.9 yards per carry on the ground, which I think we all would have taken if you told me that was going to happen before the game. Nico has 190 yards, I think, but one of them was on a 75-yard touchdown where Kenai Walker got beat towards the end of the first quarter. So really, he was pretty outside of that play and one deep ball to Brew McCoy. He was pretty damn limited. And again, those two turnovers, I think you probably feel really good about Oklahoma's chances to win the game there, but you can't do that. Jackson Arnold, again, I feel terrible for the kid, but Jackson Arnold cost the team the game on Saturday night. It is what it is. But I think that's why you're so optimistic going forward. RSJ played with his hair on fire. Easily his best game as a Sooner. 13 tackles, 1 strip sack. We're recovering on the 5. We had 9 tackles for a loss. 3 sacks, obviously the 2 fumbles. We made them punt 8 times. And I think that defense isn't going anywhere. And obviously with the Brent Venables-led team, you're going to get that. That's his focus. That's what he's going to do. And he's done a remarkable job getting that defense from dog shit to really good. But unfortunately, we've just gone the inverse where now the offense is so bad and the defense is so good. I think he's got to, BV-wise, he's got to put a little bit more time and effort into getting the offense prepared. I don't know if that's getting on some guys' asses, if that's – I mean, he kind of said it in the Tennessee post presser where he's just tired of seeing the same old shit, and that's talking about the offensive line and the execution of the offense, and like in general. And I mean, I think at this point we're putting all of our hope into Michael Hawkins, which is not fair on him either because he's, like you mentioned, a true freshman, and the kid's a stud. He can flat out play, but if you stay as beat up as we are receiver wise, because I still don't know the status for Burks or Taylor Tatum going forward, as far as the Auburn game goes, but we just need to find an average offense. If you can score 23 to 26 points a game, whatever, 27, I think we're going to beat a lot of teams.
Yeah, I think Michael Hawkins seems very athletic, and I'm not saying Jackson Arnold's not athletic by any means, but I mean the way that he was able to make plays with the same offensive line it seems like in a lot of plays this season, Jackson Arnold just has been like shut down immediately. Like he doesn't have it, and I mean that's not his fault. The offensive line doesn't give him a minute to do anything. But I think that Hawkins is maybe just a little bit more agile and he can make something work given that same offensive line. And I don't know. I mean, he had 11 for 18 for 132 yards, and he played the entire second half. Is that right? Yeah. So, I mean, and then Jackson had 54 in the first half. Like, I think he's making it work. He has the same guys on the field for the most part, minus the injuries. But, and he's making it work given the play calling, the injuries, all of that. So it's something to look forward to.
He did it without Deion Burks, too, who was, I think, the best receiver on the team without a doubt. I mean, for the most part, without Deion Burks. He played a little bit with Burks, don't get me wrong. But, I mean, for the most part, he didn't have Burks, which I think, again, Jaquez Pedaway, man, he's a guy that we've been excited for so long. And for whatever reason, him and Jackson Arnold couldn't find that rhythm or that connection. But it seems like Hawkins and him might have something going. And, again, they battled back to where with a minute, 15 seconds left, if you get that conversion, the 2-point conversion, you are in that game somehow, some way. And I do think we got very lucky to be in that situation. They had a 4th down stop, and they were called for roughing the passer. I thought it was a little bit of a suspect call, but I mean, that being said, you always take it when the refs, when they throw you in there. We were able to score. Touchdown, obviously, didn't get the conversion. But, yeah, they're in that game. And earlier in the fourth quarter, before they start doing all this stuff with such little time left, it was a 4th and 14, but Jaquez Pedaway's open. I think that's the one bad play that Hawkins really had throughout the whole game. Is he flat out missed on that play to Jaquez Pedaway. And if you convert that, that's midfieldish with I think about 7 or 8 minutes left in the game. If you get a touchdown drive there, it's a different outcome. I mean, maybe not a different outcome. I think it's a different outcome if you are able to score on those 2 turnovers that you absolutely have to. But yeah, there's a lot of things that we left on the field against a really good team. Defensively, I think we're really good. We're really good. And that's why I think that, looking forward to the rest of the season, you got Auburn this week, which I think you win that game. I think the defense shuts them down. I think Peyton Thorne over there at Auburn is probably the worst quarterback in the Southeastern Conference. They struggled for a long time with New Mexico. They lost to Cal, who lost to Florida State, and Florida State, we all know what they look like. Auburn has 2 losses. They lost this week in Arkansas at home. True road environment for us. It's the same thing that we were excited about for Nico because he's going to be a freshman playing in a road environment. I think that's something that we are going to be I'm a little bit concerned about. But whoever it is, whether it's Arnold or it's Hawk, they're both very young, making their first start in Jordan-Hare, and that place is going to be going because they're going to want to beat us. But I think you beat Auburn, you get to the bye, you're 4-1. And we always beat Texas, and we'll have 2 weeks to prepare for that. So I think, there's people are freaking out, and I get it because it didn't look good for a long time. Someone tweeted it, man, and I kind of wanted to steal it, but you almost feel better about, or I do, I almost feel better about Oklahoma after that loss, considering all the things, the turnovers, the not scoring. than I have during the first 3 wins. Because I mean, that was a true blue national champion contender in Tennessee. That a couple things go differently, namely, fucking don't turn the ball over at the 5-yard line. Don't turn the ball over at the 30-yard line. And I don't know, it could be
Don't turn
different.
the ball over at all.
I mean, yeah, I mean, I agree, but definitely that's like fucking.
You just got to capitalize on those. I mean, was it an immediate turnover turned into another turnover? You have to capitalize on those. And we can't act like Tennessee's not a very, very good team. Like, it sucks to win. It always sucks, or it sucks to lose. It always sucks to lose. But we lost to the number 5 this week. Like, they're not a bad team. And we kind of put up a fight.
Yeah, I think I understand like feeling better about the team because we stayed in the game against a very good Tennessee team. But if those turnover issues don't happen for Oklahoma, I think it's the opposite side of the story. I think Tennessee fans probably they're acting like us because then they're not living up to the expectation that they believed Tennessee was. And then we're probably bitching about how the offense still didn't look very good because they only scored 24 points or something. Like there's never going to be winning for Oklahoma unless it means a national championship. I think that's the one thing that no fan can really complain about because as Brandon, I'm sure all 3 of us have noticed, regardless of the outcome of the game, there's always going to be someone complaining about how this team looked. But after a loss like this, it's kind of like the loss that Oklahoma took versus Texas the year that Dylan Gabriel couldn't play. Or even some of the losses that Oklahoma took last year when Levy was the play caller. It seems like just there's not... With Levy, the issue was just situational play calling and moving way too fast. Right now, through 4 games, it seems like Latrell, yes, he's dealing with a lot of injury issues, but he also is not preparing these guys seemingly for this game. And I think that falls not just on him, but the rest of the staff. Like, we all love Coach B, but you're 4 games into the season and you still don't know what your offensive line looks like. The entire team is dealing with injuries. Like, there's not really an excuse there. Every team deals with injuries. I mean, look at Tennessee. They had their starting left tackle out. They still managed the game.
They had a starting left tackle out, not 9 players.
I mean, we really only had our starting right tackle out. We had our starting left guard, left tackle, center, and right guard. So it was comparable in regards to, now the talent is different, but that's what you're
lost a running back, lost 2 receivers. Yeah, but
that's not that. You also have
we lost a lot.
Prepare. Like, you got to prepare at the end of the day. And Javon, the one thing that we haven't brought up yet is the safety. That was again just a mistake. Either play call with Jackson Arnold, they are so predicated on the RPO. I don't know if you guys would agree with this, but yesterday, as I was watching the game and then after leaving and like thinking about the game, it seems like every time Jackson Arnold was in, it's like 95% of the play calls were RPOs. And and I'm sure he's probably making some mistakes with how he's reading the defense. But that did not feel the same when Mike Hawkins was in. It seemed more play action or just straight run, straight pass. Like, it might have been more cookie cutter, but the ball was getting moved down the field.
I think the play calling is sus at times. It's not great. I agree with you 100%. I think Latrell has not been what we thought he was going to be so far. But I mean, we know what our offensive line looks like right now. And we know it's getting beat a lot. And Tennessee is probably one of the best defensive lines we're going to face all season, if not the best defensive line we're going to see all season. But with that being said, like, whether it's Arnold or Hawk, they're both athletic guys. I don't understand why we don't roll pocket more, because they did it a couple times where it's just a designed rollout. That alone should buy you a little bit of time, and they had some success when they did do it. I think that's something that needs to happen. I don't know. I just keep going back. The turnover at the 5-yard line is like, if you guys were like, I'm fucking dying of thirstiness, of being, you're so thirsty you're about to die, and I give you a full glass of ice water and you just fucking throw it away. Like, I could only do so much there, right? Like, I can't. without like shoving it down your throats. Like that's essentially what the defense had to do. That they had to actually fucking put the water in their mouth apparently because handing them the glass of water wasn't enough, which that absolutely has to be enough. You can't fuck that up. You can't fuck that up.
Can't fuck that up.
Yeah, that's a good analogy. That's basically what happened.
Well, I'm so thirsty, I'm gonna die. Here's a glass of water. Fucking eat that shit. All right. Can only do so much for you, man. That's what we did there. And I think that's it.
kind of said that, not the exact same analogy, but he was asked about it in the post game. He was like, "What?" I can't remember what the question was, but he basically said like, "We have to just play more complementary football defense. We did our thing. Obviously, we made mistakes because they were able to get some huge plays off, but I think as a defense, everyone can agree, even the guys on the team, they played maybe one of their best games."
No, easily.
When
I
you
think
compare,
I think that's the best game we've seen from an Oklahoma defense in probably years, 5 years or so. Because if you think about it, their first two possessions for Tennessee started, I think, at the 50 or the 45, like damn near the 50. Because our first possession, we went for it on 4th and 2. We weren't able to get the ball to Nick Anderson, 3 and out, and then I forget what happened, but they ended up getting the ball back right near the 50 again, and again weren't able to do anything. But that also fucked us because we were playing in a bad field position for most of that first quarter. I don't know, just a lot of squandered opportunity. But
good thing though, as we're talking about the defense, and you brought up the statistics earlier, Grayson Alton still looks like a dude. He's gotten better and better every single game. Mason Thomas was making plays. Really, that entire defensive line. There's not much to complain on the defensive side. There really should be.
And you brought up the safety, so really they held them to 23 points. And I feel like there's a lot of times in that game where they could have just fucking quit and, tucked their tail and got their ass kicked. Because and they'll never say it like in the post-game pressers or anything, but when you force a turnover both at the 5 and the 33-yard line, and then you go to the sideline for half a second and you immediately watch your offense say, "Hey, buds, come get your asses back out here. We gave it back to them." They're frustrated as fuck. Brent Venables is frustrated. Zach Alley's frustrated. And they every single time they just rose up. They rose the challenge. And granted, they got beat on some plays. I think that long touchdown right before the end of the first quarter, that is I don't know if it's a blown coverage that or if Kanai Walker just straight up got beat. Either way, that's a deflating play at the end of the first quarter. I mean, you just tie the game, then you give that shit up. That stinks. But I mean, I really, with the exception of that play, I feel like they really rose to the challenge almost time and time again. And really, I mean, they're 95% of the reason that we had a chance in that game at all. And then Hawk is the other 5% with him being able to finally generate some offense.
Yeah, I was gonna look up, and I don't know if you guys know it off the top of your head, but time of possession, 35 minutes and 41 seconds for Tennessee, 24 minutes and 19 seconds for Oklahoma. And it probably could have been worse if the defense was just a little bit off their game. That could have easily been like 45-15.
6 points in the second half for them too. I mean, it's just there's so many things to look at on that side of the ball that is just impressive. And I think the lame sorry excuses that you see out there is they could have scored 70. Brandon Fat Ass Walker was saying shit like that. Like they're very lucky that Tennessee went super conservative or went this and that. There's no way in fuck that Josh Heupel. I mean, you got to put yourself in his shoes. He probably feels. I'm sure he does have great respect and love for Oklahoma still, but like a school that you play there, you coach there, you won a title there, and you kind of get ran out the door, and you're up 16 at halftime. There had to be part of him that was like, let's fucking run let's run them out of the fucking stadium. And I'm sure that was part of the plan. I mean, if you watch their post game video thing that they posted on Twitter, where Heupel got super emotional and didn't, is trying to say it wasn't about him, but the team was like, nah, man, here's a game ball. It was about you. I guarantee you Heupel wanted to run him out of the stadium, and the defense kind of did not let that happen.
Yeah, no, I think they kept their foot on the gas. There was no just giving up. No, I think the defense is just that good. And if that's what's going to win football games for us down the line, then hey, we'll take it with a little bit more offense.
Yeah, we can't be the.
We got to score the points, but we can keep the other teams from scoring points. But I mean, I do think that Tennessee is. When we look back on the season, Tennessee's probably going to be one of the first or second best teams we play this season. I mean, I think Texas looks pretty good, but of course, let's just go beat them because that's what we do. After that, I mean, I think Tennessee's going to be most likely in the college football playoff. And
I agree.
We played them hard.
Yeah, and if we went back to before the season started, we didn't talk about how we got to the Texas game, but we all agreed that we wouldn't complain if heading into the Texas game we were 4-1. 4-1 would be our record. We weren't going to talk about how we got that one loss, but we just said we're 4-1 heading into Texas. Do you like our odds against that team? More often than not, we would have said yes. Like, that doesn't really change it. And like 4-1 by middle of the season, it's not bad. The frustrating part is just how bad the defense has looked. It's not like
No, the defense
we can
looked
agree
great.
that we haven't totally
Offense.
been beat. Or offense, sorry. We can agree that Oklahoma hasn't totally been beaten by someone. Oklahoma also is kicking themselves in the ass in a lot of this stuff with not being able to put any points up because your defense. We've been seeing this with Iowa for decades. It feels like their defense can keep someone to 10 points, but if you can only score 9, that really sucks.
Yeah, no,
It's
it's
not one football game.
it look like the Chicago Bears do in the NFL right now. I think the Bears have a fantastic defense, and they keep throwing the ball to the other team, which is kind of funny to watch in the NFL because Caleb Williams, LOL, but it is what it is. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think there's a lot of good. There's a lot of good. There's the whole season's still ahead of us. One loss is not going to kill you in this conference, especially in the 12-team format. There's a lot to play for. We have to. I would be shocked if Arnold got to play again this season, barring injury, and I hate that for him. But it is what it is. It's kind of the way the cookie crumbles. I think we found our guy going forward, and let's roll with it.
Final question before we wrap it up. Does this change your record prediction for the Sooners come season's end? I think Brandon, you might have said like 10-2 or 9-3.
What's yours?
No, I
10-2?
still think this is a team that can win 9 games. I think I said 9-3 or so. I still 100% believe this team can win 9 games. I get the schedule's a gauntlet, and it's there's a lot of tough games, but Missouri is one of those games that we considered a gauntlet game. They almost got their ass kicked by Vanderbilt on Saturday. Ole Miss has looked really good, but I think I think we'll do a decent job limiting them. I don't think Alabama. I mean, Alabama was great. Don't get me wrong, but I don't think they're feared quite as much as the Alabama of the old days. Texas, we're always going to be in a game with them. I think we beat Auburn on Saturday. We definitely beat Maine. I think we beat South Carolina. That right there gets you to 7. And then if you split LSU, who doesn't look all that unbeatable, if you split LSU, Missouri, Alabama, and Ole Miss, go 2-2 there. Take care of the games that you should win. I'm even going to throw Texas in there as a game you should win because we always beat them. That's just like that's what history says. Their recent history, because someone's going to go fact check me and say Texas leads the all-time series. Yeah, you fucking nerds, you're right. But it's 7-3 in the last 10 years in favor of Oklahoma, 11 of 15 in favor of Oklahoma. Recent history says we win that game. We don't know what the status of Quinn Ewers will be at that point in time. If they throw out Arch, I think he's got some blemishes in his game, as great as he has looked so far. I think that's a team that we can limit, and I think we're going to find out a lot come Saturday. If this offense goes out there and with Hawkins and scores 27 to 30 points, we're going to be like, we're winning the national title.
I hope you're right. And you're right with Auburn. Jordan-Hare doesn't look. They're winning in Jordan-Hare doesn't look as impossible as it did like a couple weeks ago after what Arkansas did. Emily, what do you think? 10-2 still reasonable?
Yeah, I didn't put my own record prediction out there, but I did put money on over 7.5, and I think we can win 8 games. God, I hope we can win 8 games. Because I mean, looking at the schedule, like Texas, I would hope is a win. Auburn, I absolutely 100% say is a win right now. South Carolina, yeah. Ole Miss, they look really good. Maine, Missouri, Alabama. I mean, I really do think Alabama and LSU could also be wins, especially if we improve by then. That's the end of the season. And Alabama's at home. Death Valley's a little scary, but
They stink.
they do stink. They do
And
stink.
they lost Joe
And
Perkins.
I mean, after the environment that we created yesterday, like such a loud, great environment, I think we can handle Death Valley. So at least 8 wins.
Shout out to crowd for real. That was
Yeah.
electric. Holly Rowe tweeted that shit about 117 decibels or whatever, and that was 2 decibels louder than Death Valley, which was their loudest game last season. The crowd definitely showed that crowd wise we are SEC ready, no doubt.
Yeah,
Defense we are SEC ready, no doubt. I think head coach we are pretty SEC ready. I think if he puts a little more time into staying offense, quit fucking around, and please play halfway competent, he's money because that defense is SEC ready. There's again long season ahead. 1 loss doesn't kill you. It's a real loaded conference, 12-team playoff this season. Everything that they set out to achieve as a team is still right in front of them. You know, it's long way to go. Fuck everybody else. We're gonna be fine.
Yeah, no, it really was a cool environment. We got to go to game day too. It was a really cool day of college football at Norman.
The turnout for
I
game
agree.
2 was amazing.
Mhm.
You killed that. I think everybody, my throat right now feels like someone took knives to it. So I think that's probably how everyone feels. So let's do that every single game day. Just keep that going.
Every single one. I agree. Yeah, 9-3, 10-2. Probably a little bit more of a stretch goal, but that doesn't seem outlandish as long as this offense can produce. But I think that wraps it up for today. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, turn on notification bell, follow us on all social media. Link down below. Appreciate y'all watching. We'll see you next time.